He's a great Christian comedian, and he's just funny. I mean, he's one of those guys that's like, how do you come up with this nonsense? Well, July and August are two of my favorite months of the year for sure, because I kind of get to go wherever I want to go. And so this July, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to get really real. Some of you, it might make uncomfortable, starting with me. But this is a time when I like to just, so much of we sit down and look at our preaching calendar, and we make sure that there are themes that we cover throughout the year. July is one of those months that's just like, Richard, go do whatever you want to do, and I'm loving it, every minute of it. And so that's what we're going to be doing. And this month, we're going to be talking about 5 easy steps to wreck your life. Because back in the beginning of the year, I shared with you that God just began to lay on my heart that we needed a word. We ended up with 2 words, but we started out with this idea of love. But quickly, in our heart, it just morphed into this idea. It's not just love, it is intentional love. And so, if you've been around for this year, for sure, you've heard us talk about this over and over and over again. And certainly, this month is going to be right down that same vein. And so I was looking around, and I was looking for ideas, and in full disclosure, Craig Rochelle from Life Church, he taught a series by the same title. Some of the ideas that I'm going to be sharing with you this month comes from Craig, and so I just want you to know that. But we're going to have a good time. Now, I want to say right up front that I'm very sensitive to these topics. I cannot tell you. I'm a pastor. I'm a pastor at heart. I know you. I know what a lot of you are going through. I know what a lot of you have gone through in your past. You've shared that in testimonies and life groups and in different places. And I fully recognize that some of you are going to sit here this morning and you're going to go, wow, that's me. Wow, I've experienced that. Some of you could probably stand up here and teach this better than I can today. But I want you to know, this is not, because if I did, I would hit me. This is not throwing stones at anyone. This is us looking at the truth about God's Word and saying, how can we get better? Okay? So, let me ask you this. How many of you in here this morning are married? Raise your hands. Just a second. Put your hands down. How many of you in here would like to get married? You're not married. Or, excuse me, you're not married. You're not married. Let me just go there. I better go there first. I'll be in trouble about it. So, how many of you in here are not married? I see you in here. You're not married. All right. So, keep your hands up. Look around. You might see some options here this morning. Just saying. Dumb question, I know. Let's ask it. If you're unmarried or married, especially if you're married, how many of you plan on committing the sin of adultery? Wow, no hands. I'm shocked, right? I laughed about that. I said, in Fingerville language, that means you cheat on your spouse to somebody that ain't your spouse. You cheat on somebody that's not your husband, or cheat on somebody that's not your wife. Nobody goes into marriage, nobody even prior to marriage goes, man, I just can't wait to get married so I can go cheat on my wife, or so I can go cheat on my husband. Nobody plans to commit adultery. And I'm sure that's just because of the solid biblical teaching that you hear every week at Eden Wesleyan Church. And we teach from the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 14, where it says, very simply, God gave it, it's in one of the Big Ten, you shall not commit adultery. This is not hard. God says don't do it. None of us are planning on doing it. But according to the Journal of Psychology, which I don't read, 65% of males and 55% of females will commit adultery before the age of 40. And you're like, what? I mean, can we just all, I just want to sit back and just collectively share a groan. Like, oh, are you kidding me? 65% of males, 55% of females, according to, not my word, not my numbers, somebody else's, the Journal of Psychology, will commit adultery before the age of 40. Which brings us to another question. How can we all say with certainty? I mean, trust me, if you're dating someone, a surefire way to break up that relationship is for one of the two of you to go cheat. Go in a dating relationship. One of the surefire ways to kill a marriage is for you to go start having affairs. Right? I mean, it's just... And so, like, nowhere in the conversation did we sit down prior to marriage or during marriage and say, hey, babe, have you had your affair yet? And yet a number of us wouldn't. That's just the truth. You say, how in the world? Well, I don't mean to oversimplify this, but the simple fact is we have this enemy. He's called Satan. The Bible says his mission is to steal, kill, and destroy everything that matters to the heart of God. And certainly one of the things that matters to the heart of God is the covenant of marriage. Brady talked about covenants last week, about sharing meals and stuff we do at weddings. It's a covenant relationship. And you can bet that God cares about a covenant relationship. And so we have this enemy that is trying to lure us and seduce us into the sin of adultery. Because he knows our hearts, right? And one of the things I think, I'm with you guys. I said this is going to be kind of uncomfortable waters for some of us. You know, most of us would say, one of the things that will never wind up breaking up my marriage is I will never be unfaithful. Not me. And by the way, just as an aside, I had to make a note so I won't forget to say this. I have met couples who have survived the sin of adultery. Can I tell you that my God is big enough to restore even the most broken of relationships, and even when there has been an adulterous relationship within a marriage, that God is big enough to restore that. Do you believe that? I do. Amen. I do believe that. Is it hard? I can't even imagine how hard that would actually be. But it can be done. And we don't plan on committing adultery. So how in the world does it happen? The idea is, I believe, that Satan seductively draws us little by little, step by step. We don't even realize that we're headed that way, and suddenly he has sucked us in to the sin of adultery. And then one day we wake up, and boy, this is real world talk, and we say stuff like, well, my spouse is just not all that I had really hoped for, and I think I'm not happy, and I'm dissatisfied. So I've had people look at me, so preacher, is it so wrong for me to be true to who I really am and just acknowledge that I'm unhappy and satisfied? Don't I deserve to be happy? I mean, I meet someone else and wow, they make me happy. They make me laugh. They're fun to be around. I enjoy being by little. And somewhere there's a line. And little by little, step by step, somewhere we cross that line. And we're not sure how we got there. It wasn't like I was way over here one day and I just made this huge leap. You know, I woke up one day and said, hey, look at my calendar. Today's the day. I'm going to go out to the fair. You know, we don't do that, do we? But it was a bunch of very small, seemingly insignificant, and totally innocent steps that moved us closer and closer and closer and closer to this place of disaster where our lives become wrecked. So since none of us are planning on committing adultery, let me make it easy for you today. I'm going to give you 5 really easy and really practical steps on how to commit adultery. 5 easy steps to wreck your life. You ready? You don't know how, I'm going to give you the play-by-play book. Number one, neglect your marriage. If you want to wreck your life, you want to wreck your marriage, neglect your marriage. Now, there are all sorts of ways that you can neglect your marriage. Neglect yourself. Neglect your body. Neglect your physical self. Oh, hey, you got her now. You got him now. Don't worry about it. Let yourself go. Who cares? Neglect your marriage. Take your marriage for granted. Never bring your best. Find something outside of your marriage that you can give the majority of your energy to. And just to be totally honest, that can be the ministry. That can be the church. That can be your hobbies. That can be your children. Who else's toes can I step on? It doesn't matter what it is. Just make sure that you find something that you can give your best energy to. Something else besides your marriage. Neglect your marriage. Avoid, this is still under the same one, avoid in your marriage, neglect your marriage by avoiding, I'm not trying to be uncomfortable here today, but I'm just being real, avoid sexual intimacy. Make it boring. Make it predictable. And if possible, avoid sex altogether. And if that doesn't work, throw in a little pornography just to make sure that you mess things up really well. Neglect your marriage. Number 2. Give me a playbook. Enjoy a common interest and form an emotional bond with someone else besides your spouse. Neglect your marriage. Neglect your marriage. And then it's really helpful if you can find someone that shares a common interest with you that maybe your spouse doesn't share. You know, you're working on a project together at work, and you just speak a common language. You get each other. Or maybe it's the softball team that you play on. Or maybe it could even be your life group. People that understand you way better than your spouse understands you. And you begin to form this emotional bond. You can't wait to talk to them because she or he just doesn't get me anymore. And when you're doing something together with somebody that you begin to form an emotional bond with, open up. Talk about your marriage.
I mean, you might, I tell you, when you're over here in these little bitty steps, in fact, a good idea is to share stuff about your marriage in the form of, would you pray for me? And then you begin to share intimate details about the troubles in your marriage with somebody else that you are forming an emotional bond with because they get it. It's wonderful, isn't it, to finally talk to somebody who listens, who respects me. So, neglect your marriage and form an emotional bond. And thirdly, anticipate your time together. Don't misunderstand this. I'm not talking about the time that you're going to spend with your spouse. I'm talking about the person that you have formed an emotional bond with. You begin, in fact, when you know that you're going to have a meeting with them. Remember when I told you in step 1, neglect your marriage, and I said, just neglect your body, neglect your physical condition, do all that. Well, in this one, turn it back around, because suddenly it's time to go to the gym and buff up just a little bit, or it's time to put on the nice shirt and the good smelling perfume and all those kinds of things, because you're going to be in the presence of someone else that you're anticipating, and you're just looking so. Now, don't do that for your spouse. Don't do that for your husband. Guys, don't worry about it for your wife. No, don't do that. But if you're going to be around this other person, you want to be looking good. I mean, guys, I had to throw this one in there because I can tell you stories about this. Don't be picking up your stinky clothes laying all over the floor for your wife. But I mean, if you go in to meet that other person, you want to be, That's something. But anyway, number four, flirt. Flirt. Whenever possible. At every opportunity, make it a joke, get creative. I mean, you know how to do it. Now, I'd like to say, but I'm probably wrong, and I readily, you don't say amen, you don't say you're right, just I would like to think that ladies know how to flirt better than men. Although, I can argue with myself because I've seen some dudes that just know how to flirt with women. I mean, and of all things that you do, make sure that you make great use of technology. Text messaging is wonderful. Innocent, non-threatening, just a little text to say, I was thinking of you today. And make sure that your wife or your husband doesn't have access to your text messages or your Facebook page or your Twitter account or your Snapchat or your, I don't even know them all. I mean, you can just, little text messages like after that office meeting where you were working on that project, just send a text message and just say, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you being such a good listener. Because that implies that nobody else listens to me like you do. Or, I think you're just awesome. I think you're wonderful. By the way, I think I forgot to tell you, I'm so sorry, but I thought you looked really beautiful at work yesterday. Use technology and flirt. Number 5, let's hurry up, get done. These are killing me. Number 5, rationalize and make excuses. It ain't my fault. Hey, we just grown apart. They're just not meeting my emotional needs anymore. If my husband, not mine, but you know, if my husband just had one sensitive bone in his body, if my wife could show me just the slightest bit of respect, then I wouldn't have to do this. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. But the most important thing that you have to tell yourself today, the most important thing in the playbook of how to wreck your life and how to commit adultery is this. Don't miss this. You need to say this to yourself over and over and over again. You need to say, adultery will never happen to me. Oh, it'll never happen to me. I never do something like that. I got this under control. This is not a big deal. You're making mountains out of molehills. Now, we have a lot of guests here today, and they're probably thinking, dude, what in the world? Trust me when I say I am being highly sarcastic. You know, you might say, I've heard about these churches trying to be edgy these days, but good grief, this is ridiculous. Nobody comes into my office and says, hey, preacher, can we hurry up and get married because I need to have an affair? You know, nobody comes in and sits down and says that. But I've also had those people that come in and sit down in those same chairs because they're living it right in this very moment. Solomon gives some incredible advice in Proverbs chapter 5 to his son. And we're going to go there in just a second. In fact, I would encourage you, I'm not going to today, I would encourage you, you can go and read the entire chapter. It's a great chapter. It talks about temptation and talking about how to overcome it. And the words that the father is sharing with his son are words that ring so true for us today. Because I am real enough, you are real enough, we get this, that we live in a world that is filled with temptation. I don't care if you're 70 or if you're 17. It really doesn't matter. We live in a world, yes, our temptations may be different, but we live in a world that is filled with temptation. And the question is, what are we going to do about it, and how do we address this? How are we going to handle it? And so I want to just give us some points this morning and walk our way through this here for just about 15 minutes. Will you just hang with me? And 15 minutes-ish. And we'll get through this, all right? So here's we'll write this down in front of your bulletin. And there's a bunch of stuff that I'm going to throw at you this morning. I realize it. So if you don't get it all down, you can go back and watch the Facebook Live feed, or you can catch this at a later time when you come ask me and I'll give it to you. Number one way that we begin to address this, and Solomon begins to address this in Proverbs 5, and he says this, radically reduce the risk. Radically reduce the risk. Listen to what he says in Proverbs 5, verses 8 through 10. He says, speaking of the adulterous woman, is what Solomon addresses this woman as. He says, keep to a path far from her. Do not go near the door of her house, lest you lose your honor to others and your dignity to one who is cruel. Lest strangers feast on your wealth and your toil enrich the house of another. Woo! Daddy nailed it. Son, listen to me. He says, keep to a path, stay as far away from her as you possibly can. Don't go near her door, because when you do, when you fall into this trap, you lose your honor, you lose your dignity, and the stuff you worked so hard for is going to go to somebody else. Father says to his son, son, don't go near it, don't flirt with it, don't even get close. Run, he said. Don't even get close enough to pretend that it's okay. Because when you do, you end up losing the things that are most precious to you, and your toil, I love how he says this, your toil enriches the house of another. Do, he said, whatever it takes to radically reduce the risk. Here's the problem. We have this really high confidence in ourselves. That's my best drawing, so don't laugh at me. All right? We have this really high confidence in ourselves. And we're like, if this is sin, if this is the sin of adultery, if whatever it is, we're like, oh man, I got this. This is not affecting me. I mean, I'm not technically doing anything wrong. When does this become sin? We'll get there in a second. Just hang on. You see, we want to draw the line way over here and say, well, we're just talking, we're just sharing, But in reality, I think Jesus draws the line much closer. In fact, Jesus says, when he talks about adultery, because I say this carefully, hear me carefully. We tend to say adultery occurs when sexual activity occurs. And Jesus says, not true. Remember that passage when Jesus was teaching on the mountain? Matthew records it, we call it the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus says this in Matthew 5, verse 28. He says, I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman, he's speaking to men, but this works both ways, 65, 55, I'm just saying. He says, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Do we understand that Jesus puts the line a whole lot closer than we like to put the line in our own mind? Just talking don't mean anything. And the father in Proverbs gives advice to the son and says, son, stay away from her. Don't even radically reduce the risk. Guard your heart. Guard your eyes. Do whatever it takes. So here's the test. If you're married, and we put one of those little body cameras that the cops now all wear, if we put one of those little body cameras on you, and we walked around and it recorded all of your interactions with the opposite sex all day long, would you be proud to come home at night and say, hey, hon, watch my video. This is how I treat women, or this is how I interact with men. Would you be like, hey, watch my video? Now, some of you are sitting in here and you're single and you're thinking, whoo, preacher, man, that's good stuff right there. And you're like, I got a free pass today because I'm not married. Hold on. What if we put a body camera on you? What if we put a body camera on you and recorded that video of how you interact, guys with women and women with men, and then we showed that to your future spouse in premarital counseling? To say, just so you know, all my life, this is how I've been respecting women, or women, this is how I've been interacting with men. I'm a chicken and I get scared to talk about stuff like this, but this is real. This is the world we live in. We live in a world today where this line, if adultery is sexual activity, we got lots of sexual activity going on. And it don't have anything to do with marriage. And I want you, if you are single here today, if you're single here today, I don't care what age you are. And I want you to possibly consider something that might be a completely new thought. Because your life today is preparing you to live your life. If God ordains that and sends the right person into your life, then God is going to give you a husband, or is going to give you a wife that you're going to share your life with, right? And you are in essence, you're in the preparation stage for that. You are walking this journey with that. And if you are out here and you are having sex with people and you are unmarried, some people in our world today, trust me, I know I'm old, and I know I come from a different mindset, but there's a lot of, and it's just we just hooking up. It means that little. I ask you again, would you be real proud to show that video to your future spouse? Oh yeah, I hooked up with this many people. Ain't you proud of me? What if we begin to look at sex outside of marriage, hang on, as premarital adultery? I am dishonoring the person that God is preparing for me. In essence, I'm cheating on the person that God wants me to later marry. And we're building our life on a foundation of sin. Man, if you're old like me, I wish so deeply that I could reach into the hearts and lives of younger people. And by the way, it's not just younger people anymore. It's everybody. And say, this kind of behavior is the kind of stuff that's going to follow you straight into your marriage. And it will affect your marriage. It's not harsh, that's just truth. Radically reduce the risk. I said 15 minutes, I need to hurry up. Let me give you some suggestions. I'm going to run through these really, really fast. How do we radically reduce the risk? Number one, keep a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. It's amazing. It's amazing what some time spent in the Word, and some time spent on your knees, and some time spent in church with Christian friends. Never be alone with the wrong people. Never be alone with the wrong people. I am amazed at how careless we become with this. Ladies, I'm just going to tell you, if you come to my office to talk to me, my office door will never shut. Not going to happen. I'm not going to seclude myself in an inappropriate. You're not even the wrong person, and I'm still not going to do that. Never talk badly about your marriage with the wrong people. I'm not saying that there aren't places where we need to go and say, hey, me and my husband or me and my wife are having all kinds of issues. Can we get some advice? Can we get some counsel? Will you pray for us? Make sure it's the right people. Make sure that there's not some under-the-table thing that maybe if I tell them about this, Surround yourself, as a matter of fact, we flip that around, surround yourself with strong marriages. Be around people who got marriage, and nobody's marriage is perfect. I'm not saying that. But be around people where I can learn and I can share and I can glean. Be around people who have strong marriages. And then, number 4, avoid all inappropriate places and situations. There are just some places and some situations we ought not be in. Get your fanny out of there. Do whatever it takes to radically reduce the risk. Number 2, invest passionately in your marriage. Hey, Solomon said it. I can read it. It's in the Bible. May your fountain be blessed, and may you rejoice in the wife of your youth, a loving doe, a graceful deer. May her breast satisfy you always. May you ever be intoxicated by her love. Why, my son, be intoxicated with another man's wife? Why embrace the bosom of a wayward woman? Amen. I love the words of Solomon here when he talks about being intoxicated Intoxicated means that we lose control of our faculties or our behavior. If you've ever been around somebody who's intoxicated, sometimes they're mean, but that's because they're not themselves, they're intoxicated, or sometimes they're just plain funny, or sometimes they're just plain stupid, or sometimes they're just plain get away from me. But it's not them. And I ask myself, am I in love like that? Invest passionately in your marriage. I'm going to hurry. How do we do that? We'll give you some points. Number one, be transparent. Your spouse should be the one that knows you better than anybody else. Number two, get along. By the way, on that get transparent thing, and I don't know that this is completely true. Often we say, well, our wives are better at this than husbands. We can go through that too. Get alone. Spend some time alone. You know what? There are times when I am thankfully, say this very carefully, thankfully past those years when our kids were so demanding and so little, took so much of our attention. Can I tell you, husbands and wives, you need time alone. And even the right stuff can pull us apart. Number three, get spiritual. You need to share a spiritual journey together. Whatever that looks like for you. But there should be spiritual conversations. There should be praying for each other, praying in circumstances, praying, get spiritual together. And then get help. If there's times, when stuff is going wrong and you don't understand how this is working, don't be afraid to ask for help from others, from trusted couples, from people on the pastoral staff. Get help. And then thirdly, neglect your marriage. Radically reduce the risk. Invest passionately in your marriage. And then thirdly, visualize the potential destruction. You need to have a conversation with yourself. And you need to sit down and look at yourself and say, you know what? If I keep going down this road, here's what it looks like at the end of this road. Proverbs chapter 5, verses 3 through 5 says, "For the lips of the adulterous woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as gall, sharp as a double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps lead straight to the grave." There are times when we need to stop and let that movie play in our head. Picture sitting down with your kids. Tell them why you can't live here anymore. Birthday parties. Having to look your kids in the eye and say, "Kids, here's what I've done." Radically reduce the risk, invest passionately in your marriage, and visualize the potential destruction. Can I tell you, just in a moment of honest transparency, this is a movie that plays in my head. And it causes me to caution some things that would seem to be, oh, this is not a big deal, I got this. There's something that says, stop. And not only would I dishonor that beautiful 19-year-old girl that has put up with me for 36 years, not only would I dishonor the children that have believed in me and counted on me, say, I blew it. That's not a movie I want to go see. By the way, I thought this was interesting. A few more stats, if I could share them with you today. Make sure you can say these real good. I mean, somebody comes along and says, they make me happy. And I'm just not happy. We're in love. Do you know, this is statistically true, do you know the percentage of people that actually marry the person they had an affair with? 3%. 3%. He's going to leave his wife. She's going to leave her husband. We're going to live happily ever after. Of those 3% of marriages, do you know how many of those marriages end in divorce? 75% of those marriages end in divorce. Why? Well, it started off on a foundation that was pure lies and deceit. Not a real strong foundation to start a relationship. It may feel real, and while it's deceitful, it might make you happy. How do you ever trust that person? I mean, I think it's why God says marriage is a covenant between husband and wife and God. It's a covenant relationship. Can I just talk to you for a second? I almost didn't preach this message. I came this close to saying no. Again, I say, for some of you, this may hit very close to home. For some of you, you could, when I went through those lists of things, you're probably going, yep, I know that. Yep, I know that. Yep, I know that. Some of you have already starred in the movie where you sat down in front of your children and had to have this conversation. You know this story way better than I. I mean, you can honestly stand up here this morning and say, let me tell you how it really is because I lived it. I know what this feels like. Because for you, it's real life experience. And you have no idea how much compassion I have for you. Because I want God to bring healing and hope into your life like never before. Here's what I know. Satan would love nothing more than to wreck your marriage. Marriages are filled with all kinds of pressure. We're like, oh, let's have a baby. And then there's all kinds of pressure. Oh, I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to be traveling. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be... Maybe you've already stepped across the line. Maybe you have committed adultery. Maybe you think, aha, This will never happen to me. Church, here's why I preach this message. Here's why we're gonna have some fun this month. Next Sunday we're going to talk about how to lose your faith. The next Sunday we're going to talk about how to become dissatisfied. The next Sunday we're going to talk about how to become an addict. Just in case you needed to know. The last Sunday of the month, thankfully, will be DDS closing rally. You see, here's what I know. We can come to church, please hear me very carefully, and we can have an amen shouting. But marriages within the church, statistically, are struggling just as much as marriages of people outside the church. How can that be? I just told you. Because we let those things creep into our life. My prayer is that God begins this work of restoration. You see, I know some of you are sitting here and going, wow, man, I'm way down that road. I don't know if I can get back. On your own and on my own, I can't. But I believe in a God who can. God is in the restoration business. He takes our broken lives that we have messed up through selfishness and sin, and He restores them and makes us right with Him through the blood of Jesus Christ. He takes our broken marriages. He takes the brokenness that some of you have experienced from the pain. I've never been divorced. I don't know what that feels like, so I don't pretend to be. But some of you have experienced pain that is beyond belief. My prayer for you this morning is that God begins the business of restoring and mending that broken heart that exists inside you. My question is, will you let Him begin that work today? You see, I believe that God has this way of, even in a crisis, even in a difficult spot, God has a way of bringing something out of our crisis, bringing good out of our failures. That's God. So I think we're going to end today just like this. Please know the heart. Our altar is always open. If there's something you want to pray about, even after the dismissal of the service, you come, I'll pray with you. I'd love to do that. You have a connection card laying in front of you. I'd love for you just to make sure you fill that out, A, and put it in the basket as you leave. But B, maybe there's a prayer request, or maybe there's a praise, or maybe there's just something, some way that I can be praying for you and encouraging you. When it comes to marriage, I'm tired of just rolling over and saying, oh, what? I want to fight what we believe in. Pray with me this morning. Jesus, this is tough. This is tough stuff. God, I pray this morning that there are those here. This is real. What I'm talking about is real life. There may be some that right now is still in the hidden stage, and they're just in that, that emotional relationship with someone. would there be this huge blinking red light that says, no, run, run. Don't wreck your life. Don't wreck your marriage. There may be others, God, who are farther down the road than that. God, my prayer today is, please, God, please bring healing. Turn hearts around. Change minds. Do in a moment what only you can do that we can never do. We don't have that power. We don't have that ability. Would you please, God? Would you please? For those that are feeling, say, man, I've lived through this. I know this story. And they may be feeling just as broken today as they did right after it all happened. There's this feeling of I'm not good enough, or there's something wrong with me. God, I pray that you would begin that process of restoration. And as I struggle through it, Lord, would you please be with those here that are unmarried. May the life that they live be preparing them for a life that they're going to share with someone else in a way that's honoring to both. In the name of Jesus Christ, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the bridegroom of the church, that